Welcome to the show! Happy Friday, everybody. It's raining in Los Angeles, but it's nice and warm and sunshiny inside here. Today's episode is going to be jam-packed, so stop what you're doing, clear out your desk. We want your attention because it's going to be deep. Today, we're going to be talking about generating creative momentum. Like, oh my God, like what does that even mean, creative momentum? Well, to help us do that, I've invited Joana Galvao onto the show. She's the founder and CEO and art director of GIF Design Studios in Porto, Portugal. She's also a designer and, oddly enough, also a Zumba instructor. So we need to get physical. We're going to get physical today. Okay. She studied graphic design and photography at Kingston University. And this is just us looking out onto beautiful Porto, Portugal. It looks amazing. Looking out a window.
I'd rather be there right now.
Maybe it's cloudy and raining too. We can imagine that. Or maybe it's not. And on today's episode, the three things that we're going to be talking about is what is creativity? This is really hard to define, but I think our guest has an idea as to what that means. She's also going to break down the 4 stages of creativity. And somewhere in here, we're even going to do an exercise to test how creative you are. I think I'm pretty creative, but I'm a little nervous now, Mark. Are you?
A little bit.
A little bit?
But I'm into the exercise, so we'll
okay. See. And in case you're not familiar with who Joana or GIF Design Studios are, here's their work. Check it out. This is something that she's done for Alana Mitchell, and it's a lot of really beautiful work. Clean, modern, sophisticated. This is for Soul Powered. Again, you're going to see like beautiful comps or mock-ups or whatever she's doing here. This is what we talk about when we say this is how you present your work. Mm-hmm. She's done a really good job. And even in the first 2 pieces of work, you can see there's a consistency here. For Rhythm 24, I think that's how you say that. Some packaging for it. Again, beautifully presented. The color combinations, the lighting, very solid. And I think our background in photography might be something to do with like how good these things look.
I was just going to say.
Maybe. I don't know. And then here's one for Naturally Made. I don't know what this is, but it looks good. Mm-hmm. Taking a package and a design that you do and putting some context and illustration around it really adds a lot to something. And then this is something I think about all day long, the bridal collection.
I can see you wearing that, Chris.
Yes, you know, it's a boy's dream. Look at that. Really beautiful layouts. Very consistent. And no wonder she's so successful. And this is for Bob Heilig. Is that Heilig? And a presentation. Just really beautiful stuff. I assume an app. Okay, so without further ado, guys, please help me welcome Joana to the future. Joana, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. And olá a todos, meu nome é Joana Galvão e bem-vindos ao The Future.
Yay! Yay! What did you say? What did you say? That was awesome.
I said, hi, everyone. My name is Joana Galvao, and welcome to the future.
Awesome. Okay, I understand you have a presentation, so we don't want to waste any more time. We want to just jump right on in. So please, without further ado, take it over.
All right. So we're going to be talking about generating creative momentum so that you don't get blocked as much when you're having to create new ideas for projects. And so I want to start by taking a trip down memory lane and think about what you used to do for fun as a child, how you used to play. I would take a guess and say that some of you maybe put on plays for your family, or you would write novels, draw comic books, do illustrations. Maybe you spent afternoons playing dragons in your living room or building new worlds with your Lego. But whatever you did, I have a bet that you would get out of your own way and let your imagination run free. And that makes you feel connected, energized, and alive. And it's when you're in a state of creative flow. So I'm actually curious, Chris, do you remember what you used to do for fun as a child?
Yes. Where do I begin? I love reading comics. I did play with Legos, but we were on a budget, so I never had the fancy Lego pieces. So I had to do more with less. I love to draw and make comic books, so those things, you must have been reading my bio as a child, because that's what I did. I also wound up making things out of trash. I remember when I was younger, I'd walk the schoolyard, and people would drop things all over the place, and I'd pick them up and put them in my bag, and eventually go home and try to make a play set for my action figures, for my Star Wars action figures or something like that.
That's cool. Yeah. But, I think that sometimes the more limitations we have, the more creative we end up being.
Absolutely. I agree.
We just have to use what we have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Constraints can be the mother of invention.
So as a child, I used to love to play as well. And I did like all of the examples that I've given. I used to play with Lego a lot. And at school, very early on, I became particularly fond of art class. And I was told by my teacher that I was very creative. And, between you and me, Chris, that felt like she just told me I had a superpower.
Wow.
Right? Well, it made me feel really special. And because of the reactions that creative work had in people. And I'll give you an example. So my sister and I are very different. She was very good at biology, history, geography. And when she'd come home and she'd present, as the overachievers that we were, she would present her like A+ exam in history. And she would get like, yeah, well done, you deserved it. Whereas when I would come home and I'd like whip out a piece of artwork, I'd get a more emotional reaction. My parents would go like, oh wow, we should hang this up somewhere, maybe next to your other paintings. And so that's what I mean by, like, to me, being defined as a creative made me feel really special because of that. But when I got to university, I realized that, well, I felt like I got tricked. Like, when I truly learned what creativity was, I thought, yeah, maybe I was labeled wrongly. So this isn't a drawing that I did when I was 5 of a house. And this is something that my teacher would would come up to me and say, like, this is great work, Joana, you're very creative. But now that I look at it, this is not what a creative house looks like. This is what a creative house looks like. Or these ones in Holland, I used to drive past them when I lived over there. Or from my favorite show on Netflix, Extraordinary Homes, where they built a house with plane wings. And then I look at this and I think, well, why was I being rewarded? Or why was this work being defined as creative? Was it just because I colored in the lines? And because I drew a house with like a bathroom and a garage and a car and like some stairs? To me, that now doesn't really make sense. Whereas my sister, I remember once she drew a drawing of a tree house with like a slide coming out of it, and she was told she was wrong. Whereas I don't even have to leave my country to find beautiful tree houses like this one, and like offices with slides in them.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is where I started to question how we define creativity, because I think too often we just associate it with art or music or dance or film, like creative arts. But so what I wanted to do here is kind of like help you and your audience like deconstruct what creativity really means before we go into how to generate more of it.
Fantastic. So, we could use this, so I'm ready. I'm waiting with bated breath.
Well, so here's some like questions to get you thinking. Creativity. Are we born with it? Is it a talent? Is it a skill? Is it an ability? Can it be trained? Is everyone creative? Where else is creativity present? I'm curious what you think of those prompts, Chris.
Those are some good questions.
Can we go back to the first slide of that question and I'll answer each and every one of them down the list?
Sure.
Yes.
Are you born with it?
Yes, 100%. Everybody's creative. Everybody's born creative.
Right. So that's like you've already answered a bunch of.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the next question then?
Well, then I'm like, is it a talent or a skill or an ability?
Yeah, so here's the thing. People who do self-define as creative don't like to believe my point of view on this. I believe we're all born creative. And what has happened to us is through culture and conditioning, the the creativity is stripped out from us. We have standardized tests to make sure that we fit within some standard mold. And so the people on the fringes, on the edges, get squashed and squeezed out, that we learn to go along. We get along by going along. And so we start to lose our individuality. We had the brew guy, Dan Mace himself, and he has a motto. It's like, not normal. I am not normal, and we need to be spreading those kind of messages more. So when we think about can creativity be trained or taught, really what I think is what we're doing is we're deconstructing and removing the layers of that conditioning to reveal back the true element, the original authentic self, and that's what's happening there. And yes, we do need to be trained on how to communicate and transmit a creative process or thought into tangible things. Like, you still need hand skills. You need to learn how to sculpt or throw clay. You do need to learn that from somebody, but the spirit of creativity is alive and strong in all of us.
I had a question. So is creativity something that's only in the creative space, like artistic space? Because I see it being in more like traditional businesses or, say, corporate. How could creativity be defined in those areas?
Okay, so that's also what I was getting into, because I agree with what you said, Chris. Like, I think our society is making us, we have to conform. And so when I showed the house example, it's sort of like, well, I'm being rewarded for doing what everyone expects you to do when they ask you to draw a house. And so that's not really thinking creatively. And for me, creativity is about, if you look at its definition in the dictionary, it says it's the use of imagination or original ideas to create something. But for me, that creating something, it could be creating a new solution to a problem. And so that's where I see, and then you need to learn the skills, right? And so if you need to use creativity to design a logo, then you need to learn the skills that are needed for that. But also, you could use creativity in your business, and business becomes a medium, just like paint is a medium, just like whatever software you use for logo design is a medium. So creativity is for me, it's the skill we use to come up with solutions to problems. And I do believe it can be trained, because I think of it like a muscle. And yes, like you, Chris, I believe that everyone is creative. And I want to show you that. I want to do a little test so we can all see how creative we are.
I need to find some dramatic music here. I don't have anything on my board here.
I think we're
ready. So Mark and Joana, I want you guys to play along too. Okay, if it means that the edit suffers a little bit, that's fine, Joana. I'll give you permission to screw up for a little bit.
All right, thank you.
All right, here we go.
Okay, so I'm going to break down the exercise and what it is and what I want you to do. I'm going to give you an object, and it's not this one on the screen. It's not an espresso cup. And you're going to think of as many uses for it as possible. I don't want you to edit yourself. I don't want you to think this is a ridiculous idea. This would never work. No, I just want you to come up with as many ideas as you can. And you can write them down. You can count them in your fingers if you're on the go watching this. And I've done this myself in preparation for this talk. So I put myself on the spot as well.
Okay.
And I was like in the office here, and I just grabbed an espresso cup. Traditionally Portuguese, we drink lots of espressos. And I gave myself a minute. And so let me give you some examples.
Okay.
Like I said, don't edit yourself. So you could put like a metal chain around it and it becomes a key ring. You can tie it to the end of a string and it's a pendulum, so you can hypnotize someone if you like. That's your sort of thing. You can use it as an egg holder. You can put some soil in it, plant some seeds. It's a vase. And this one's very weird, but hey, it's what came up and when I was doing this exercise, which is if I still played with Barbies, it could serve as that, hairdresser blow drying thing. So this just goes to illustrate that you don't want to edit yourself, not when you're in idea generation mode. So we're going to put a minute on the clock.
I feel like
I'm going to reveal.
I feel like I'm going to be set up for failure here.
It's about to get
I
crazy,
just feel
though.
a little nervous right now. I'm just kidding. I'm excited. Let's go.
Sorry. So the object is, you guys have a drum roll? No.
Let's see. There. They're improvising. Okay, there we go.
And
Okay, ready?
Paperclip.
Paperclip. Go.
Okay, I got one. What else could it be?
Can I say it out loud?
No, I don't want to influence people. I don't want to influence anybody yet. I'm just going to write them down. Oh my gosh, the timer, the stress and the pressure.
I wish I could see the comments too, see if anyone's writing some.
There's a lot of people writing stuff already.
Just take their ideas.
No, don't look at it. Don't be influenced by them. It's the dark side. Let us know when we're on. Are we almost out of time?
7.
7,
Six.
6, 5, 2, 1.
Okay.
Okay.
That was fun.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me ask the team, without revealing your answers, how many things were you able to write down?
3.
8.
Woo! I'm in
Whoa.
between. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7.
Amazing.
Okay, people that are watching this live, please type in your answer in the comments section right now. How many ideas did you come up with for the paper clip?
Yeah, what'd you guys come up with?
Yes.
Some say 7. I see a
7.
lot of
Does anybody
similar
have more
answers
than
here,
8?
too.
If you have more than 8, you're jamming, man.
4.
Okay, so
10.
nobody
No,
more than
someone
8.
got 10.
10?
12. Oh, there's a 12.
Whoa.
Come on.
Come on. Oh, come on. Now you guys are just writing down numbers, you guys. 12. Charles, tell us your 12 right now. Everybody in the chat, don't write anything. Charles, I challenge you right now. Type in 12 of your answers right now.
Type them all down.
Type them all down. There's a little delay
Negative
here,
1.
And can you write paperclip? Does paperclip count as 1?
Well, what is the use for it?
To clip papers?
So that's a use.
That could be-
I don't know. I'm just trying. In case you guys are stuck.
Yeah, a lot of people are
304.
between
Come on,
like,
wise person.
5 to 8. There's
Yeah.
a good
It's average.
median there. Yeah.
Okay. So, Joanna, here's what I wrote down. Okay?
Okay.
I wrote down necklace, key, earring, bicycle rack, back scratcher, poker, and hair clip. That's what I wrote down.
How's it a bicycle rack?
Have you ever seen those sculptures before?
I see.
You take it and you kind of
yeah.
bend it out, and then you can
Yeah,
park
yeah.
a bicycle. So if you're like, hey, that's cheating, well, it's a very small bicycle.
Miniature one.
Yeah.
Or a really big paperclip.
That's
Yeah.
good.
All right, Mark, what do you have for your 8 since you beat me?
Ooh, what I got here? So I got a key pick, toothpick, a weapon, keychain, a jumping toy. You know how you could fold them and make a little grasshopper.
Oh.
A ring, bookmark, and a cat bracelet.
Very good, Mark. Very good. Jonah, tell me your pathetic 3. I'm not judging you,
Ooh,
but tell me your pathetic 3.
Oh, pathetic 3. Necklace, a hook, and a knot.
A knot, huh?
Yeah, I guess you tied it together. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
I didn't
All right. You really have 2. You really have 2, but those are 2 good ones. Okay. Very good. Okay.
That's good. You guys didn't edit yourself. You just went with it. That's great. And so the average is 4 per minute. So it sounds like your audience is all very creative. Which
Got some
I
creative
expected.
people.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
So you're saying Mark and I are above average, and you've confirmed something that Jonah is way below average.
Thanks a lot.
Look, the future only employs the very best and brightest minds in the planet.
I guess I'm on my
But
way
isn't
out.
Jonah focused on the cameras? I mean, you're
Yeah,
asking
it's
him
true.
He is multitasking,
It's
so
true.
we'll
It's
give
one-
him
he's
credit for
multitasking.
editing.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm actually fascinated that none of you came up with a couple that I thought you might.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to reveal why later on. But I'm curious for your audience, did you guys come up with like using it to get into the SIM card of your iPhone?
Yes.
Mm.
That was my poker. I wasn't very
Oh, right.
specific. I used it to poke things. Yes.
Poker.
Hey, guys.
And-
Come on.
The other one is lock picking. Did anyone think
got
of that?
I got key pick.
Key.
Yeah,
I wrote down key.
All right. So Chris wrote one-word answers to make it mysterious.
You don't understand the strategy. See, less is more.
Just write vague.
Mies
vague
van der
terms.
Rohe.
Right. So, and I'm going to tell you why I asked these
Okay.
later. So let's go through the 4 stages of creativity. Let's look at what just happened in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually coined by the psychologist Graham Wallace. This is not my intellectual property. I'm no psychologist, but I am an avid researcher of all things to do with creativity. So first we've got preparation. This is where you gather all the information you need to tackle the problem at hand, or like the brief. And in the case of the test we just did, you already know what a paperclip is. You know how much it weighs, you know its size, you know it's malleable, you already know what its main use for. What it's used for mainly. And then we've got incubation. And this is my favorite stage. It's where you sit back, relax, and let your subconscious do the heavy lifting. And this is where it would be a great idea for you to jump up and jump in the shower. Do you guys have ideas in the shower as well? Is it just me?
All
Yes.
the time. I need a dry erase board in my shower because the best ideas, and then I towel off. I'm like, all right, get these ideas out.
Hey, that's an idea right there.
Yeah, it should be. I should redesign my bathroom to be all dry erase walls with markers there.
Yeah, waterproof.
Well, I want to bring showers into the studio so we can all be like, wait, hold on, I need some showers.
You're right. Hold on. For our
Hello.
brainstorming session, everybody strip down. We're going to go into the shower. I'm sure that'll be very popular at your
man.
office, less popular at our office. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
saying.
not so much here.
Yes.
But there's actually a scientific explanation for why this happens.
Mhm.
And so when you're in the shower, your brain frequency goes into an alpha state, which is the optimal frequency for creativity and idea generation. And you can also get into this state by walking, washing the dishes, ironing, and any other activity where your conscious mind doesn't really have to focus on what you're doing and when you're relaxed. And what your brain is doing at a subconscious level in a very simplified illustration, and I'm no scientist here, but it's like if you think of your brain like a hard drive, and the research you've just done in the preparation phase is like a folder, it's now going to go and match the files in that folder with all your memories. So like it's almost like going to go through them all and see like where it can make links. And then when it finds like a useful connection, that's when it pushes it to the forefront of your mind, your conscious mind, and that's when you get that ding, eureka moment, and you've got an idea that feels like it came out of nowhere, but really it was your subconscious at work. And that's called illumination, the illumination phase. But now let's think to the exercise we just did. Like you only had a minute, and no one went and took a shower, and no one relaxed, no one had time for preparation or incubation really. So I'm not saying that you need this for every brief, but if you're feeling that like you really creatively blocked at some point, or the problem at hand is quite complex and you're not getting anywhere, then to find activities that can get you into this state is really useful. Definitely go for walks. I try to go for walks twice a week minimum, like hour-long walks in the park if possible. They say like curvy patterns is best. I don't know why, like curvy roads. And then after illumination, we've got verification. And this is where you would test out your ideas or choose which ones to run with, and switch your brain frequency from the alpha state to the beta state, which is when you're focused. But with that said, if you take anything from this talk and implement it into your creative process, I would hope it's this. It's to spend more time in idea generation mode and don't go straight into like, let's test this out, let's see what this looks like. Because, and I know this can be hard when you have like clients and deadlines and people waiting for you, but we've just learned that our brain cross-references the information it just received from like the research on the brief with all of your memories. So so it's going to go through like the surface level memories first, like the most recent ones and top of mind stuff. This is why I asked if you had come up with the idea to open the SIM card on your phone, because that's an object that you use every day. And so it's top of mind. It's an easy connection for your brain to make. But as you keep pushing for more ideas, your brain has to work harder and dig deeper, maybe go further back in time or deeper in detail in that particular memory. And that's where really the magic starts to happen. That's where predictable ideas become ordinary ideas and then become really, truly original ideas. Believe it or not, we have to do the object exercise at university for 90 minutes.
Oh,
Wow.
It was excruciating. Like at like minute 15, I'm like, no, I'm done. There's no more things you can create with this paper. Like, and then at like minute 20, I'd get a couple more, and I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? And by the end of it, your brain is really hurting. But I noticed that they were starting to get more and more original. You know, the first couple of minutes, everyone had very similar ideas. But the more you push, the more effort you put in, this is where you really start getting to the interesting stuff. So those are the 4 stages of creativity. And now that we know all of this, what do we do with this, right? So like, what do we do with this information to generate some creative momentum and incorporate it into our creative process? So being the visual learner that I am, and I like to organize my ideas into things that are easy to understand, I've created this framework. And if you like to, you know, take notes or doodle, you can draw this out, and we're going to fill it in together. I've actually learned recently that doodling whilst you're taking in information improves your memory by 29%. Did you know that, Chris? Like, that's crazy.
I actually did know. I just didn't know the percentage. So here's the weird thing. You don't even have to doodle like in terms of taking notes of what it is that you're learning. So when I was in junior high, I did pretty well relative to my classmates, and I would draw all the time during the middle of class. And I remember the girl behind me, Heather Levine, she was super hot. Oh my God, she was hot. Okay, different time, different subject. She would sit behind me and she would doodle, and Mr. Thompson in social studies would walk over and like, Heather, what are you doing? She was like, I'm drawing. And she's like, you need to focus. She goes, but Chris isn't. Look at him, he's drawing. And then he would ask me a question. I would give him the answer. And then he would say, but you see, he's listening while he's drawing. And usually to teachers who are uninformed, this is one of those other reasons why we have to change our education system is that when you're doodling, it allows you to focus deeper. That's why when you're on a conversation with Mom or Grandpa Joe and you're drawing, it's not because you're not wanting to listen. It's actually activating different parts of your brain so you can remember better. You can retain information better. So Mr. Thompson, luckily, wasn't that kind of teacher. He saw that I was paying attention and I knew what I was doing, so I was allowed to draw all the time.
That's really cool.
Now,
really cool. I remember,
I was just gonna, Chris, were you doodling about like things that were unrelated to the topics?
100% unrelated.
Okay. But it still helped you make those connections about
that's what I'm saying.
Learning. Okay.
You literally, like when we're doing these live streams, you don't have to take notes. You could sit there and draw a house, a car, a fish, a boat, whatever it is that you want. And it allows your brain to go into another state and you can remember things more.
Got it.
So if you do active note taking as doodling, that's probably even better because then you could make some sense of your drawings. But I was literally drawing the same character over and over again. It was this man standing there. Same guy drawing over and over again.
I used to doodle a lot too. I used to draw a lot. And I remember once I drew, and I feel so bad for this, but I drew my teacher sitting on the desk. She used to like sit on the desk as she would talk to us, and I would draw the desk breaking. Ooh. And she wasn't even she wasn't overweight or anything. I was just like, yeah, I'm really annoyed because like I don't like this class. And she found it at the back of my notebook, and she actually corrected my spelling mistake because I would draw like speech bubbles with what she would say.
Oh my gosh.
This was English class, right? at this point, this is only like my third year in learning English because I'm Portuguese. And so she'd correct my English, and that was that. She didn't tell me off or anything.
That's cool. You too had a good teacher.
I just feel really bad for doing that. Anyway, yeah, so with this momentum of creativity framework, we want to start with fuel. So just like you regularly put fuel in your car to keep it running and to take it to where you want to go, you want to fill up your creative tank, right? You want to make sure that you're consuming things that inspire you on a regular basis, like, watching the future. And
I highly recommend that.
I think a lot of people do that. I see it in your stories all the time, right? They're having coffee at breakfast and watching an episode.
That's right.
And so if you think back to the incubation phase that we talked about, where your brain is like making connections between your research and your memories, well, think about the quality of the memories that you want to put in to your like creative tank so that you generate better work, right? So be sure that you're consuming a lot of inspiring things on a regular basis. And Julia Cameron, in her book, The Artist's Way, she actually recommends that you take yourself on an artist date once a week. That's a concept that she came up with. And this could be a museum, going to a museum, going for a walk to a part of town that you haven't been to, going to an exhibition or a music concert. Here's the thing, it doesn't necessarily have to be linked with your area of work. So if you're a graphic designer, like, go to a music concert or go to, the circus. I don't know, like something different, because you never know what connections you're going to make, and you might have a project in an area you're not even familiar with. So it's good to just like learn a lot about different things. And she also says, and now makes sense, that when you go on these artist dates, you go by yourself. And that's because you need to focus. You need, and it's focus, I put it at the center because at every stage we need to come back to it. And we need good quality focus, not like in today's world where you're just getting hit with notifications all the time and like people wanting you to do things for them. You want to go on these artist dates and really let yourself be immersed by what you're seeing, listening to, and what you're experiencing. And I'm curious, Chris, like, do you do that? Like, do you try and do that on a regular basis? Like, consume new content or take yourself out to exhibitions and things?
Yeah, yes and no. I'm not one to frequent art galleries. I know it sounds weird. I should be doing it, but I don't. But I do seek external stimuli all the time. So it's easy for us to stay in our studio, read our books, and be really comfortable, kind of holed up in our own home office or office, wherever we're at. But here's the interesting thing. And I know my own thought process really well. So I'll encourage my wife, like, hey, let's go out. Do you need to buy anything? Do you need to go to the store? Do you need to go anywhere, anything? Do you need to buy shopping, whatever? She's like, I don't have anything, but let's just get out of the house, honey. So our son will go out and we'll go to the mall, whatever. We'll walk the promenade. And then somewhere I'm like, just now feel like my alpha wave brain is going bananas because I'm away from the thing that I'm trying to solve. So if I'm trying to write a deck on a topic that I'm just stuck on and I just can't get the ideas to flow, I go somewhere else, and all of a sudden, while trying to walk and get a coffee or a drink or whatever it is, the ideas start flowing. Then that's when I'm not talking about it. I'm like on my phone, like writing down as many of the ideas as I have as possible. Now, granted, in your whole 4 cycles of creativity, verification is the last one. Not all the ideas are good. In the moment, they feel really good. And I go bananas, right? And then I go back and then I'm like, oh, it's kind of stupid. But there were 3 good ones. And I'm able to use that. So being outside, being bombarded by other things, packaging, displays, everything. Like hang tags on a t-shirt. I look at that, I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. It sparks another idea. So definitely I do that. I don't necessarily go to like art places to be inspired.
Right. And it's like what I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be something linked to your area of work.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you mentioned you read a lot, you're a hyper learner. So that I would also count that as fuel, because it's things you're consuming to just have in like your memory bank to then draw upon for new connections or to solve new problems.
I like that.
And so next we've got find. So you'll notice this is alliteration for it to be easy for you to remember.
Mm-hmm.
And this find is all about like, well, now that you're consuming, now that you're filling up your tank with some creative fuel, what is the problem that you need to solve? What is the thing you're looking for? And this is where you get clear on your brief, or it could be a personal problem you're trying to solve. You know, you're trying to like get more clients. Like, I need to be creative about this. How can I get more clients? And in this phase, you really want to be like an explorer and start gathering as much research as you can. Like if it's about getting clients, well, you could use this phase to first get really clear on the right questions you should be asking, like what type of clients do I want and how many exactly? And then what are people doing successfully? And so now that you've like, and this is part of the preparation mode. So now that you've consumed lots of things to inspire you and fill you up, and now you know what problem you're solving, this is when you want to get into the flow state, right? That's like the incubation period, but you want to make sure that you've got really good quality flow state where you're in the alpha brainwave. And so I really recommend, if you can, to start going for more walks. I think that's the easiest one, but it could be that you just really like washing the dishes. So you try doing that with like some music with no lyrics on or something like that. And if we look at great minds that went for walks as well, we've got, you know, Albert Einstein, Aristotle, we've got Tchaikovsky, Beethoven, Steve Jobs, you know, so many. When I researched, like my list is huge. So many people go for walks to just like get your ideas going, just like what you said, Chris, that you get out of the house and that gets your creative juices flowing.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing you want to do here is leave friction out. And so you don't want to edit yourself when you're in flow state, because this is where like the ideas start popping up and you don't want to discard one straight away. You know, you really want to come at this from more of like a playful, let me experiment, let me be, you know, let me have fun with this and let me be curious. And then the other thing with removing friction is your mindset. And I know you're really into this, Chris, so I'm excited for your thoughts about this. But for me personally, how I've been experimenting with this was inspired by Amy Cuddy's TED Talk on your body language may shape who you are, right? She has you stand like in the Superwoman pose.
Yep, power posing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that helps you like lower your cortisol levels, not cholesterol. Lower your cortisol level. raise your testosterone, and I also paired this with affirmations. So if I feel a lot of pressure on, and I know I need to be in the right state of mind, otherwise I'm going to get into my own way, I'll just say things like, ideas flow out of me effortlessly, or like my writing flows out of me effortlessly. It's like the content is writing itself, and I'll do that. I'll say it for like 2 minutes, and that's what I've been experimenting with, and I find it a lot of fun. And it's surprisingly, you know, maybe it's the placebo effect, but for me it's working. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I noticed that I do, and there's a book that's going to be coming out very soon called The Alter Ego Effect by a friend of ours, Todd Herman. And he trains a lot of athletes on creating a lot of athletes have their own alter ego. You know, Beyonce has also Sasha Fierce, which is just you create this other persona when the stakes are high and you really need to perform. And so what works for me when I'm in my creative process is I have like 2 different personas. I've got like the hippie Joana, which is like free flowing and just dancing around the room and just creating, has no worries, no responsibilities, no stress. And I invite her to the room and I'm like, okay, you've got an hour to just create to your heart's content and don't worry about the outcome. And so I'll get into that mindset. I'll just create as much as I can. And then I thank her. I'm like, okay, you can leave the party now. Now I need to go into focus mode so that I can validate these ideas. And then I bring my other persona, which is like the perfectionist. Let me edit this. Really high standards. I just want to put excellent work out there. And so I alternate between these two alter egos. I don't know. This is what's worked for me, what I've been experimenting with. Do you have anything like that, Chris?
I do. My process is very similar. It's just not using the words that you're using, but yes, it's very, very similar. I want to use this opportunity to also to insert a little question in here. Marco's like, it's very hard not to edit. It's really, really hard, especially when working in a team. Any ideas on how to keep that under control?
Good question.
Joanna?
Yes. Okay. So this is when you're working on your own and not editing. It's like it's going to be like a muscle, like going to the gym. You know, the first time you go to the gym, you're not going to lift as many weights as someone who's been going often. And I find that it was very hard for me not to edit. I still sometimes catch myself editing in creation mode. But for team collaborations, I actually have a little tool for you, which comes in the fourth stage when you're getting feedback, or in this case, like let's say you're working with the team to nail down what ideas you go for. We use this improv technique called yes and. So you want, when you're in idea generation mode and you're brainstorming, you want to agree and contribute.
I like it.
Whether people are going to be on board with it or not in your team, like in teams, it's just a matter of getting used to this new way of thinking. And the other thing that we tried out when we were really stuck with logo design and the client was just not liking it. And we were getting a little bit tired of the project because it was just not flowing well. And so I tested out this idea where we had to, first we had to use yes and. No one was allowed to say anyone's logo ideas were bad. And I brought them all into this room and I told them, we need to come up with 6 logos, 3 good ones and 3 bad ones. And you had to create bad ones. And then we put them up on the wall. And then you look at everyone's work and now you have to agree and contribute. And don't identify which one is the good one and which one is the bad one. And what we had happen was maybe a bad logo sparked a good idea in someone else. And then when we felt, okay, we've got enough options to work here, then we went into edit mode and just voted for which logo we wanted to show the client. And actually, we ended up having way more. For a team that was completely stuck, this worked really well for us.
Fantastic. Yes,
I love that.
I'd like to add something to this. If you're working in teams, it's very hard not to be self-conscious of what you're doing compared to somebody else. In a team dynamic, that's going to happen. So the alpha, the most experienced person is going to be the loudest and clearest in what they're doing, and it's going to intimidate the other people to contribute. I find that if you allow people to work silently and not allow them to look at anybody else's work, that they can contribute their own ideas. Let's gamify it. So if you said what you just said, which was, I want you to come up with 3 good ideas and 3 bad ideas. And at the end of this, each one of us is going to contribute 6 ideas. So now we have a number to hit. Another way to do this is to say, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to draw as many ideas as possible. And the person who has the most number of ideas, not the best, wins.
Yes,
So
I love that.
we take it away from the judging. There's no ability to judge. It was about volume. In the very beginning, the first exercise you had is to do was how many different ideas can you come up with? The more, the better. And you reminded us not to judge ourselves. So it's that exact same principle. Give yourself a time limit and give yourself a box to fill. Fill up this page. Tell me 20 names for a company, whatever it is. Write as many as you can. And you'll be surprised at how many of them are good just by doing that. And then you can then do the feedback loop, which is everybody put up your ideas. Let's see if we can collectively agree which one is the best.
Yeah, I love that. And you must have heard this story then where a ceramic teacher divided the class in two, and she asked for one group, like, you have to show me, you have like the whole semester or whatever time frame to create one product that you're going to show, and you're going to be graded on how good that one is. And the other team, you can, I think you're going to be graded on the quantity that you put out. And when then they analyzed all the pots, like the people who were putting out volume had better quality than the ones that were focused on quality.
Mm-hmm. That's also in the book. I think it's called The Art of Fear, or The Fear of Art. I can't remember. But they did very similar experiments. Same exact results.
Oh, I'll have to add that one to my reading list. Hadn't heard of that one. Yeah, and then another thing we do is something that the creative director of Shopify wrote about on Medium, Vern Ho. He came to Porto last year, and we started to implement this, which is fresh eyes, right? So when you're working on a project for a long time, it's great to just have like fresh pair of eyes look at it, especially if you're creating digital products, to see like what's the usability like, do you understand it, or logo design as well, like what letter is this to you? We get that all the time. Sometimes we go into the office next door and we're like, what do you see? Because now we're all seeing like a flower or something completely different than what it's meant to be. Yeah, and so this is like the main structure, but the most important piece here is sort of like what we touched upon just now, is frequency. So adding the frequency to keep generating that momentum, and you'll notice you're just, it's like the wheel is just going to get faster and faster and faster, and you're going to feel more creative and more inspired. And I really love this quote by Maya Angelou: you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. And so it's like, yeah, it's like going to the gym. And it brings me back to like the first point. If you take anything from it, just like stay in idea generation mode. And if you're trying to get good at something, can you do it every day? And there's a concept in the slight edge, which is like, if you just try and be better, 1% better than you were yesterday, every single day, it's going to have a compound effect. And so if you can pick a daily project, like I know some people do like 365 days of type, or have you heard of the 1 minute briefs?
No.
So this is a Twitter account in England. We used to do it when I worked in London for an agency. And so like every day they release a brief. Like today, the 1 minute brief of the day is to create a response for Andy Murray's retirement. He's a tennis player, a Scottish tennis player, and he played at Wimbledon a lot. And so these were some of the things.
I like that.
Like a sad face, or Wimbledon. Finally, a Brexit I can get behind. So yeah, and so this is a fun one. If you want to be creative every day, like go to the 1 minute briefs and just commit to that. And that's another way to remove friction, is if you turn it into a habit, then you're not going to get in your own way, hopefully. And so, yeah, with that, I want to leave you with, creativity is intelligence, having fun.
I like that.
That's cool.
So just play. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you very much. Is that the conclusion of your presentation?
It is.
Woo. Let's do
awesome.
this, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. I've seen that our audience has grown, so that means that's a good thing. We started out with 100. We're at 323 people watching live. Some people are commenting, saying something in Portuguese. I imagine I don't know what it says, so I can't say anything. And I wanted to share with you guys while you were talking. I was doodling. This is the drawing that I would draw all the time in junior high.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the exact same drawing, because I didn't know how to draw eyes or ears or nose. This was my shorthand. I was somehow fascinated by people smoking. And so this is it. So use the hair to cover up all the parts, and that's it.
Is
I
that
tried
what
to
kind
do
of
it
hair?
as accurately as possible. I even made a metal sculpture of that in my metal class in high school.
cool.
Was that Mark?
Yeah, I used to draw everyone with a side fringe too, because I didn't want to draw two eyes, right? Because it's very hard to make them look symmetrical and nice. Yeah.
Mark, what were you gonna say?
I was just wondering if that's the type of hair you would have if you had hair.
Oh my
That is the exact type of hair I had
You had that
in high school. Yeah,
Oh,
I just
okay.
did
So it's like a self-portrait without the cigarette.
Just like fill it up with mousse and blow dry it, just make it really big. It was the 80s. What do you want it for me, man? It's like the age of Cure and Depeche Mode and all those guys.
I had a question. Well, just in going back to the process of developing these creative ideas, and I've heard a lot of people talk about boredom and how that can stimulate a lot of new ideas. How does that play into it in the way that you think of it, Joana? Because I know that you're saying, you go out into the world and you could experience different things, attend art shows, immerse yourself in the outside world. But how do you see boredom playing into that?
I think boredom fits in the flow state because in a way, if you're bored, you're letting your mind wander, hopefully.
Getting into the alpha state. Yeah.
Yeah. So it should have the same effect. Like you being bored should have the same effect as you going for a walk. Hopefully, if you're letting your mind wander.
It totally does. You know what? Here's a personal story. I got a message from Ben Burns this morning. His wife is in labor over 16 hours right now. His baby's not coming out. It just won't come out. 6 centimeters, just not ready to pop. And he says, I've done more writing than I've ever have in the last day and a half. Because he's stuck in the hospital. He's got nothing to do. He can't do a whole lot. Probably, who knows about the internet connection there. So all he can do is write. So this is what he's been doing. If you want to get creative, lock yourself up in a hotel room with not a lot of stuff to do. And you'll see what you can come up with. On a train ride.
Or I was going to say planes. People ride a lot on planes.
Mm-hmm. Good question. Okay, Mark, let's jump to the YouTube chat here and let's see. Somebody's saying, Jafun Brielle is saying, I need it in my life. Nice. Somebody else is saying, Ultramind is saying, motivation, inspiration.
Yeah, people like the framework that you put up there also, Joana.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great way to, instruct people to kind of establish how they should think about creativity.
Yeah, excellent job. So I got a question for you. Can you quickly recap what fuel, find, flow, and feedback means?
Yeah, so fuel is all about consuming inspiration on a regular basis.
I see.
Find is about getting clear on the problem you're solving, the problem at hand, and finding the information relevant that you need in the preparation stage. Flow is all about now letting your mind go into a alpha brainwave state so that your brain can start making some connections. Feedback is about validating your idea and maybe running it by some people. In the middle, there's focus, but you need to make sure that you always have good quality focus time, phone on airplane mode, that kind of thing. And then around the wheel, like the arrows, they say frequency. So remember to do it frequently, get in the habit, do it daily if you can. And you want to leave friction out. So you don't want your mind to start editing. Just getting rid of the resistance as best as you can.
Thank you so much, because I'm actually taking notes on this and I could not keep up with you. So great job. Great job. Show. What does the chat window say? What can we do?
Yeah, someone here had a great question, and they were wondering if you've facilitated this type of framework with a client, and if so, how do you do it, and how do you finally pick ideas out of this creative, this creative dump?
So I haven't yet done it with a client. It's something that I've actually been trying to work out, how would I do this? How would this work? Mm-hmm. Because I do want my clients to think of themselves as creatives too, no matter what area, what industry they're in. And in my team, we're just implementing things very slowly. So the flow state, for example, I force breaks at 11 a.m. I encourage breaks at 11 a.m. and at 4 p.m. so that they like come into this room. This is not where we work. This is like where we hang out or have meetings, and yeah, just relax for a little bit. So yeah, slowly implementing it in our teamwork, but not clients yet.
Mm-hmm. All right. There's a pretty funny comment here from Zero Alpha Designs. We won't use your real name, Zero. He said, or he or she said, I use my dead-end day job to get into the flow state and come up with ideas. So his entire day is a tire flow state because he's just bored out of his mind.
Sounds like a life hack right there.
What's that?
That's a life hack and a half there.
That's right. So you're stuck in a dead-end job. Congratulations. You're going to enter that flow state much easier. Beautiful job. Okay.
I saw a good question here also. Someone was wondering, how do you split between the creative side and that editor that's always trying to shoot down your ideas and provide that friction? Like, I guess that goes back to focus. And it sounds like, how do you maintain that focus on the creative side?
I try and look at like, how long do I have for this? And I play around with, okay, it's going to be 1 hour of no editing allowed, and then I'll do 1 hour of editing, or just intuitively try and switch between the others. But I'm trying to be really intentional and really conscious that when I am creating, the editor is not allowed. I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, so you just got to push the editor side out and make a conscious effort of just focusing down.
And it's really easier said than done, right? Like, right. I've been trying this for so long. One of the things that helps me is to, like, when I come up with keynotes like this, or contextual models, because then I've got like these contextual models for like how we show our clients our process and the projects, and I've got like seduce, sell, secure for like for how we sell websites. And when I'm trying to do that, I'm putting everything in Post-its, and I'm just like putting it on the wall. Like, okay, I want to talk about focus. Or focus could also mean, that's how I noticed that there were a lot of F words. And then I try to make everything an alliteration, right? I ended up writing like a point repeated many times, but written in different ways. Or then I'd be like, fuel. What other word can I come up with? Fuel. It's inspiration. It's research. Or it's, yeah.
Love it.
So just like letting it flow and trying to be quick. Like if I notice that I'm paused for too long, I just have to keep moving. Because otherwise, then it's just that block is just gonna build, and the little voice in your head is gonna be like, oh, you dried up, you've got no more. Oh my God, you're not gonna create anymore, and then it just like grows into this big monster. So just keep creating.
Nice. I want to give a shout out and a special thank you to HXT Sauce Brand Design from Miami. Thank you so much for your super chat. Appreciate you.
And we got a good comment here from Martha. She's saying thank you because she's creating a proposal right now, and she just generated 2 new ideas listening to this. So
nice.
Shout out.
Send us a check. Send us a check.
Help somebody out there.
All right.
That's really cool.
Okay. Somebody's saying they'll work for me for free for 15 minutes of my time. That's not on subject here.
That's an F word, free.
But you know what? I was so anxious to jump into this because I didn't know how long your presentation would take. It actually went a lot faster than I thought, Mark. And so I didn't tell anybody the story about why you're even on the show in the first place. Our mutual friend, Thad Cox, I think, introduced me to you, and you and I talked, and we had a really nice conversation. And then I said, you know what? I would love to have you on the show. Now that you're on the show, is there anything that we can do to help you?
Oh, well, you already gave me some great insights that I've been trying to implement, right? Like you. Okay. Well, I'm interested about like what you're teaching on mindset, right? Because yes. I think, especially when you're going through periods where you go through lulls, it's like, how do you keep that mindset on sales calls to just keep closing? I'm really glad we had our chat though, because things are going great now. But yeah, I'm interested in what you have to say, like more on the mindset.
Okay, I'm working on this new deck, and it even includes a rap at the end of the deck. Okay, and I'm not a rapper; or maybe a poet or spoken word thing?
Yeah.
So the title of the talk that I'm working on, and it's a collection of a lot of different ideas and influences, and it's called "Limiting Beliefs: Unlocking Unlimited Potential." And the thing that I keep realizing as now I'm kind of being this public persona, this person who's talking to lots of people, I'm hearing the same problem come up over and over again. I can teach you how to bid. I can teach you how to flip a negative negotiation into a positive one. And then I keep realizing that no matter how many tools, tricks, and tips that I give, there's a percentage of people who have a mental block, who say to themselves, this cannot work. What evidence do you have? Can you give us proof? You're a charlatan. All you care about is money. So they have so many things they put in front of themselves. So what I realized is before I can give them any answers to a problem, I have to help them remove that barrier, that wall that we build around our own success. And we've heard this before, this expression. It's almost a cliche. You are the thing that's getting in the way of your own success, or you're afraid of success. We've heard of all these expressions before, and I think there's some truth to them. So I've been practicing with my youngest son. He is 12 years old right now. And we're practicing word jitsu, or I try to throw things at him and force him to flip it into a positive. I'll give you an example. It's so lovely that you're talking about hiking activates the alpha brainwaves, and curvy paths are better than straight paths. And so we go hiking. We try to do it at least once a week. And he doesn't like doing it, so I try to make a game out of it to distract him from the fact that he's walking hiking 3.2 miles, right? So my wife will be around, and my wife is a beautiful human being, and she's always trying to give him little bits of advice. And for him, sometimes it could feel like, God, Mom, you're just nagging me all the time, right? So I want to make a game out of it. I want to take it away from being a negative and make it a positive. So I said, no matter what Mom says, you have to take whatever phrase she gives us and you have to make a better sentence out of it. So if she says, eat spinach, or don't cross your feet when you're walking, whatever it is that she's saying, you can only add a sentence or phrase before it or after it to change the meaning of it. So he's like, Dad, this is really hard. I said, well, things worth having are supposed to be hard. You want things to be hard. See, I just gave you an example there. So when you complain things are hard, well, things that are worth having are hard. That is a wordjitsu ninja flip right there. So what we do is we practice this on a daily basis so that we can develop the habit. And then when we're entering into a client conversation, it's supernatural. We've been here many, many times before. And they say this too. Go ahead.
So is it like you're affirming? Is it about languaging? Is it about getting used to saying, like, I can do this, or like practicing saying the price out loud, things like that?
It is about rewiring your brain to interpret the world differently. We often joke between him and I, we want to be like a superhero. We want to bend reality to meet our expectation, not the other way around. We don't want to change our expectation to meet reality, because in truth, so much of what we think and feel is completely subjective. And we mistakenly think that that's objective physical reality, that a cup is a cup, red is red. But when we look at the color red, somebody walks up to red and says, wow, that's the color of passion and love and romance and Valentine's. Somebody else looks at red and says, that is Christmas, that's Santa Claus, it's the holidays. Somebody else looks at red and says, that is murder, red room.
Alert.
You see? So red as a pigment or a reflection of light or color, however the color science works, objectively is what it is. It has no meaning, it has no emotion, it has no feeling. It's through your subjective lens that you look at the color red and say, well, that must mean this, that must mean that. So if you're used to looking at red and having a negative reaction, what I want to teach you to do is to change that lens so that it becomes a positive reaction. And I have a series of exercises that I take people through in this new talk that I'm working on to help them rewire their brain. I'll give you another example of the war on words with wordjitsu, okay? We hear the word no a lot, and no is a defeating word. It ends all. It's the finality, the final point of a conversation. No. So when we hear the word no, it makes us feel really bad. So we'll do anything in our power to avoid bringing up a situation when somebody has power to say no over us. That's why we refuse to talk about budget. That's why we won't ask a girl out on a date. That's why we won't ask for things that we want in life, because we're so afraid of the word no. So what we want to do, everybody that's watching this right now, I want you to do this with me. We want to reprogram the word no into something else. So here's a handy device that you can use. You all know what an acronym is, right? FBI stands for Federal Bureau of Investigation. CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. What can no be an acronym for to make it a positive thing? I'll give you guys a second to think about it, and for the broadcast delay, go ahead and type in the chat, what can no be an acronym for? The letters N-O. Don't say anything. I just want to give you guys quiet time to think, and there's no judgment. Write down as many acronyms, what the letters N-O can stand for. Write them in the chat right now. Here we go. It's starting to go. And then sign up for my next limiting beliefs talk. Go ahead, you guys. All right, beautiful. I see it. Beautiful. Good, good. Nice. Love it. Okay, so I'm going to read some of these things to kind of spur the ideas. I can see that it's not going bananas. Like when I ask people where they're from, boom, it goes bananas. I can't keep up with. So Marco says no objections. Beautiful. Now, I didn't say this. I should have said this. You can't use the word in the acronym. So if it's no, you can't use no as one of your letters, okay? So somebody said never opposing. Nice offer. Next offer. Next opportunity. Boom. That's my favorite right there.
Yeah.
William Lin.
Yeah.
When somebody says no, reinterpret that as next opportunity. That one wasn't right for you, but there's another potentially better one out there. That's what we want to do. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you guys one more to play around with. And so this could be really fun. So I'm going to give a point to whoever has the best answer. Theoretically, if we're doing this in a workshop, we would all vote. And it's like, that's the best one. We'd give them a round of applause. Okay? Here's your next one. Fail. What can fail stand for? Again, no and failure, in this case, fail, are things that we're so scared of as creative beings. What can fail stand for? F-A-I-L. Fail. It's in you fail. Okay, now it's going to take some time. So, Joanna, you work on it too. You're like, hey, man, I'm the co-host here. What, you got me working? Yeah.
No, I'm already writing, but this is, yeah.
Fail. There, we're starting to see some nice. Come on, guys, you can do this. I want to say this, hands down, without a doubt, in my mind, the future audience is the smartest audience on the internet. Hands down. Hands up, I don't know, but hands down, you guys are the smartest group on the internet. Yes. So this is what I do with my son all the time. And he and I are playing word games as if we're fencing with each other all the time. And we have a good laugh at it at the end of the day. And I tell him, there's nothing you can throw at me that I can't flip around on you and make it something that I want it to be. And he's like, watch. And he does this and I do this. And we're constantly doing this. I wish we had a camera on us because you guys would laugh your butts off. It's hilarious to see a 12-year-old boy try to match wits with me. And he's getting better at it every single day. He says, Dad, one day I'm going to beat you. Not today. One day I will be dead and then you will beat me. Okay, fail is a little bit harder here. Fuel any invention. I like that. Find another insane lead. Beautiful. Future audience is loving.
Damn.
Woo, you guys are smart.
Or lazy.
Fund all intelligence lucratively. That one's a little bananas. Full attention in life. Okay, what else do we got?
You guys are creative.
Dang, you guys are good. See, this could be a good workshop, right? Maybe I should prototype this workshop live with you guys. Who
Future
knows?
always is lit.
Future always is lit.
Sounds about right.
Okay, here we go. Here's what fail can stand for. First attempt in learning. That's what fail is.
Yep.
That's all it is. See, we can retrain and reframe our brain to not to be constrained. That's what we got to do, guys. See what I did there, Jonah?
I sure did.
Yeah, I got nothing from you. Like, oh my.
Oh, that was arrows.
Yeah, I know. No. That's not, no. Never mind.
that's right.
Forget it. You're not paying
All right.
attention. Never mind. All right. That's it. First.
Chris,
Yeah, go ahead.
so do you ever get so the examples that you were giving us with resistance, it sounded like it's people who like haven't yet experienced that it is possible. Do you ever find people that like have experienced it, but then they take a step back and it's like they can't get themselves there again? How's that process?
That's interesting. I only seem to encounter two types of people on the internet. I know there are more than two types of people. Just two. The people who say to me in the comments, I tried it, it worked, I'm amazed, thank you so much, I'm sending you a check. I like those people. Then the other people, the naysayers, the cynics, the skeptics, they're like, this won't work, you're stupid, this is horrible, you're an evil human being, why would you do this, you suck, all these kind of, and they just don't even try. I only find people who try and win and people who don't want to try, because that's pretty much it. There are very few people, and they have not commented where I tried, it worked, and then I just don't know how to get back there again. Then I would simply say, watch the video again, and you'll get right back there. I've left a blueprint for you to follow time and time again. That's why I love the power of video and social platforms like the one that we're on, is that you can watch something over and over again. Think about how radical that idea is. It didn't even exist 10 years ago, if you think about it. Back in the day, you'd have a DVD, a VHS cassette tape, and young people are like, what's a VHS cassette tape, That you didn't have this information available to you. Meaning, when you were in a lecture or a classroom, when the teacher said that, and if you weren't 100% focused on what they were saying, or they said it too fast, or their examples weren't good, you could not revisit that again. That was it. That was the beginning and the end of the learning. You'd have to ask a friend, like, what did they mean? You'd have to go to TA sessions. Now, thanks to platforms like YouTube, the information, if it's well made, can live forever. And you can watch it over and over. You could just jump to the part that was confusing. I've watched videos myself to try to extract the maximum amount of knowledge multiple times. Even really long videos, I've listened to over and over again. I'll pause. I'm like, I don't know why I didn't hear that the first time. Or I want more nuance. That was such an amazing example, and I was just gushing about how great the example was that I, as the teacher, couldn't absorb it as much as I needed to. That's me.
So the reason I asked is because this whole creative framework was born out of a place of, I don't want to say desperation, but it almost was. Because it was over a year ago, and we were going through a quiet period in the agency. And when you've got people to pay, that can be scary. And I'm very into like a lot of mindset stuff. Like I do the affirmations, I do the power pose, I meditate, I read about like using positive languaging and all of that. And for some reason, just saying like, yes, I will go on this next sales call and I will close it, the voice in my mind just wasn't believing it. And I'm like, well, where's this coming from? Like, I've been doing this for 3 years. Why do I believe it works, but why is this voice suddenly here?
Oh, I see.
So overpowering. And what do you do about that?
Yes.
So my solution was like, okay, well, I'm clearly revisiting everything that has worked is not working because this voice is getting really loud right now. So I started to take myself back to childhood, and this is where this was all born. I was like, what did I used to do as a child? And I used to write novels a lot. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go write a novel. And it seems very counterproductive because I need to be like figuring out how we're going to get more clients. But it allowed that voice to shut up and just for me to get my creative juices flowing again. And so for me, that was my way into starting to believe in myself again and like all the mindset work that I had done, or the law of attraction, things like that. I don't know if you're a believer in that.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, I get what you're saying now. I think that in certain circles, we have a lot of confidence, and then what has worked for us should have carried us into the next experience. But sometimes if you were speaking and giving this presentation in front of a bunch of lawyers or doctors or people not in the creative field, that little demon might come back out, right? Because now you're thinking, why are they interested in me? And what do I have to teach doctors or lawyers? Or this is a professor, a former professor of mine, and he or she knows so much more than me. How could I possibly impress them? Almost all of those observations are from the point of view of you looking at you. It's become really self-important. The ego has gotten really big at this point. It's like, I want to impress them. So if we write that script, that narrative in your head, I have something to share. What they take away from that is up to them. That's got nothing to do with me. So I'm not trying to impress you. I'm not even trying to change your mind about anything. I have a deck. I know it's worked. I'm going to present this, and some of you might find this to be very helpful. Others, you might find that this is a waste of your time. I will not be offended if you think that. So when we decentralize the ego as the main driver of what gives us happiness or sadness, I think that allows us to be able to do these kinds of things more consistently. And look, I'm speaking from experience. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been a judge for shows before where I felt like an imposter, and I felt really small and weak and like an interloper. I've invaded this group, and they're going to discover me any second. And I've had to go through, dig back into my mind and unpack all that stuff and do some self-therapy to be able to overcome that. Okay?
Yeah. This is where the alter ego is useful at times.
Yeah. All right. Miriam is saying Chris cannot be a middle child, and Miriam, you are absolutely wrong. I am the middle child of three boys. Yeah, I don't know where that comes from, but I'm just going to clarify that. What else are they saying, Mark?
Let's see.
Anything in here?
You're
saying it's the elders. Oh, the editor's talking. Never mind. I thought that was a compliment.
Yeah, no other questions.
No other. Okay.
I mean, everyone's pretty complimentary here.
Yeah, they're very complimentary. There are quite a few fans of your looks here, but we just say that yes, she's attractive. Let's get over that. Okay, I guess it's time for us to wrap up the show. Now, before I wrap up the show, I want to prepare you, Joanna, since you are bilingual, or maybe you speak more languages than two. But I would like for you to say at the end of this thing, my name is Joana Galvao, or the way that you normally say that, and you have been watching the future in Portuguese. And do it deliberately. We're going to center you up on camera. Last time we had you split screen, right? So that at the end, I'll prompt you, and then you'll know when to do it, okay? So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in and staying with us this entire time, and the audience growing. So in case you joined us late, latte, if you were late to this thing, I'm going to give you a quick summary here. It's not a great summary because I think Joanna did such a good job. I was like, nah, I don't know what else to say about it. But here's some things that you need to think about. In order to unlock your creativity, you need to be able to activate the alpha waves versus the beta waves. And when you're doing things that you do on an autonomic level, that it happens almost naturally, like showering, walking, doing the dishes, any routine activity, even boredom, can prompt you to enter this. And when you enter in the alpha state, you are doing what other people have talked about as you're entering into an autobiographical state. You're reflecting back on your life, what has happened, what is happening, and what will happen. And it's a very powerful thing to surface a much more creative and imaginative version of you. Your unconscious mind is much smarter than your conscious mind, sad as it is true. Okay? And the thing that we all suffer from as creative beings is that we tend to judge our work a little bit too much. So we're killing off our babies before they even have a chance to gestate. So one way around this and to really unlock the potential of your creativity is to generate as many ideas as possible, and don't edit, don't judge, just let it flow. A couple of things that Joanna talked about is, one is you can give some prompts, like 3 good logos, 3 bad logos. You can make a list. You can give yourself a time limit. Say, fill up 20 answers, and don't even worry about the quality of the answers, and you'll be surprised. And test after test, in the book Art and Fear, they've proven this again and again, especially with artists. The people who make more wind up making better. The person or the people who make one and try to make the world's most beautiful masterpiece often fail. They don't even complete it. So the 4 stages of creativity are preparation, incubation, illumination, and verification. And we'll go deeper into that with, I'm retitling the 6 F's, and none of them are swear words, okay? 6 F's.
2 or 4-letter ones, though.
Yes. Focus. That means getting rid of distractions so that you can concentrate. Feel. You need to feed your mind. So this is the consumption phase where you are exposed to external stimuli. You can do this in traditional spaces like museums, art galleries, places where art is being produced, or non-conventional art places. Anything that can stimulate your brain, you go do. So for some, it's like listening to music, whatever else it is. You need to find. This is having clarity of the problem. in order to solve a problem, we need to know where it is and what it looks like. Flow, this is it. You're going to alpha it. Let it go. Don't edit. And feedback, this is where you can validate the idea to make sure you are not crazy. Now, you can validate yourself and say, oh, that was pretty crazy. That's off target. And you can eliminate ideas, or you can do it with a group of people. And there's a tool that I'll get to in a second. And then frequency is to do this over and over again so that the wheel spins faster and faster and you have all this great momentum. And I think part of our title is like finding creative momentum. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Start a new habit. And when you're reviewing work and you're sharing with your community, try to adopt the improv trick. Yes, and, which means I agree. And here's how I want to contribute to this. So yes, and that's what we're going to do. So before we say goodbye, I want to thank each and every single one of you guys for making it to the end of the live stream. Please reward yourself by hitting like, commenting, subscribing, and hit that bell while you're at it. Sustaining members, we love you. And this is Joana and her team doing funny duck faces. You are excellent at the face. You're excellent. Some guy here didn't participate. He's like smiling like a regular dude. He's like, yeah, gotcha. But anyways, this is how you get in touch with Joana at GIF Design Studios with an S. If you don't put the S in there, it just sends you somewhere else. GIF Design Studios, or is it GIF Design Studios? Either way.
GIF.
It's
and
GIF.
Without the S, it sends it to us too.
Oh, does it? Really?
Oh, nice.
Okay, excellent. Okay. And her name.
On the URL. Yeah.
Yes, her name is Joana Galvao. That's not the real Portuguese way to say it, pronounce it, but she's going to do it the right way. And you can find her on IG, on Instagram at Joana Galvao Design. Thank you very much, Joana. Please take us off the air. Please. Okay, there you go. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. Meu nome é Joana Galvão e vocês estiveram a ver The Futur.
Woo! All right, I'm going to play some music and let's get out of here. Have a great weekend, everybody. It was lovely to see your faces. See you online, on my mind all the time.